Hello.
The International Monetary Fund is predicting that sanctions on Russia could result in its economy shrinking 8.5%.
Absolutely, 8.5%, and indeed the global economic outlook is not looking very good. Now, indeed, 8.5%, of course, is a lot. I mean, it's nearly 10% of the economy. But on the other hand, given the harshness of these sanctions, that is not what you'd potentially expect, given that the IMF itself is saying that when it comes to Ukraine, its economy could shrink by around 35%, given that it's, of course, difficult to establish what the actual impact of the war will be on the country. Now, of course, these sanctions work both ways in a sense. When you isolate a country like Russia from the global economy, it has effects on that economy. So the IMF is also saying that the global economy will not, the GDP will not be, would be reduced to 3.6%. That is a 0.8% reduction on what had been announced in January. But one other thing which has been said is that the IMF's chief economist, Pierre-Olivier Gourinchas, says the tightening of sanctions to include restrictions of energy exports by Russia could actually double the impact on Russia's GDP and indeed have cause a shrinking of the Russian economy of 17%.
Now, one of the things the EU has not done, which it could do, is ban Russian energy imports into the bloc.
Absolutely, but that's something very difficult to do. Why? Simply because, well, for starters, Russian gas accounts for 40% of the EU's consumption of natural gas. If you go to oil, it's 25%. It's important to remember that Russia is an energetic superpower. So, of course, it's very difficult to wane Europe off Russia, which is, of course, the closest, I'd say, large energy producer. This is why the pipelines go to Russia. Now, Europe has decided to diversify. Now, what we're having now is a race to improve the capacity of various ports across the European Union for the gas terminals to be able to take in more liquid natural gas that could be imported from other countries. Problem is, for now, the offer is not very wide on the world stage because most of this gas is already being sold, and of course, it's difficult to amplify the production for producing countries. But then there are also new ideas that are being developed. For example, here in France, we have a lot of mines in the northern part of the country, 110,000 kilometers worth of underground galleries. And these underground galleries are filled with fire damp mine gas, which is methane. So we have companies, French companies, one of which is La Française de l'Énergie, that are exploring this. They've already been doing it for some time, and they say there is a sizable stock of gas underground, that this gas is anyway sifting through the ground and getting into the atmosphere, so that it should potentially be used in order to produce natural gas. And indeed, well, they're pushing the French government to indeed authorize more exploitation of this gas. That's one example. Another example is biogas. That is the methane which is contained in our waste, the organic waste that we throw away every day when we cook food, for example. And there again, there are plants that are being built across Europe as we speak at a very accelerated rate at the moment in order to take advantage of this biogas, there again, to reduce the dependence of the EU bloc on Russian energy. Absolutely.
Thank you very much for that, James. James Andre there.